Welcome to the Misfit Squad Podcast,
where we invite you to embrace your difference and to discover a spectrum of possibilities and change what's wrong about you into what is strong about you.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's show. We're talking about quarantine, the earth, and you. Are you on lockdown? Actually, at this point, I'm not sure who isn't, but do you feel stuck? It's a pandemic, as they like to tell us over and over and over and over again, everywhere. And it's definitely turbulent times. So, in all of that, we're going to take it back to the one thing that we all have in common, which is our earth.
Yes.
So, now what?
That's a good question.
Well, and so last week's show, we had the meditation, which is essentially what we called it our earth. It's our earth connection meditation, right? So we sort of started this last week. So.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot out there and we've all heard a lot of different shenanigans, stories, theories, all of that. And I think the biggest thing with all of it is actually getting to the truth of yourself and knowing, and like we've talked about in previous episodes, we talk a lot about being with your own awareness and perceiving what's light and what's heavy. And now is a great time to be able to tap into that tool, because there's so many things and there can be truth in some of it and there can also be some lies in some of it. And so being able to tap into what is actually light or more expansive, where you like take that breath of fresh air, or when something is really heavy and more constrictive, now's the time to be able to use that, because then you can start asking questions when you read the things that come across of like the conspiracy theory or 5G or what else is all out there? Vaccinations, the coronavirus, like there's a whole muck and it feels like a big mush pot of stuff. And instead of like going into your head and trying to figure it out, it's really about being in the question and asking what you really know about the given situation. And sometimes, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's interesting because I posted something that someone took offense to the other day.
Yeah. What was that?
It was something about like quarantining. It was when you do it to the sick people and when you make healthy people stay home, it's tyranny or some. So it was slightly insightful, you know. And I did it on purpose. I am sharing some of those things because I am alarmed at how right everybody thinks they are.
Yes.
Everyone is so like the number of like posts that I've seen where it's like, if you're not staying home, this is all your fault, and just crazy. The craziness astounds me, and the amount of rightness on every side, right? Yeah. This conspiracy things and the blah blah blah, and I'm simply interested in people actually asking questions.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot about, that's awesome, because it puts people go into reaction, you know, versus action. And reaction keeps you stuck, because reaction is like you're reacting to either like that, like somebody's resisting and reacting to what you posted, or they're either aligning and agreeing with it. And so when you get stuck in reaction, it doesn't get you anywhere except for spinning in a circle. And the way out of that is to actually take action. So like, what action could you take today that would undo the reaction?
And I just want to say that like action can sometimes seem like it means like, you know, like a physical action, right? That was me pretending to walk. But an action can be asking a question. So you read a post and you're like, oh my God, that. Oh, wait a minute. What am I aware of here?
Yes.
What are they really saying What else is possible? How could I look into this further? Like, what is it? Because one of the ones that I've been doing a lot with all of the crazy is like, okay, what part of what this person is saying that is like pushing my buttons can I research further, get more information on, makes sense to me? You know, like I look for a piece in that instead of just like, because obviously I have my points of view about the appropriateness of the response and how this is been handled, obviously, right? And everyone's also entitled to, like, I'm entitled to my point of view. That's the other interesting thing is people are really like, it's like we're not entitled to our point of view about what we think is causing it, how it's been handled, appropriate reactions, et cetera, et cetera. So
it's kind of like what you were saying though, like when a given situation and you're looking at something and researching it more, you're also asking, so what's the truth in this? What's the truth here? And what's the lie here? Because when you get like something in your head and it keeps like stuck and spinning over and over again, it's usually because there's like an untruth in there or a lie there. And I know that's kind of like, that's a whole nother handbag of stuff. But if you get that a lot of times when you read something, especially from the media, there's going to be this smidget of truth and there's probably also going to be a smidget of lies.
Or in this case, maybe a bunch of lies and a smidgen of truth.
Exactly.
You were trying to be nice. I'm done. There's a shit ton of lies out there and a teeny bit of truth. But that's what we call a truth with a lie attached. Yes. And what that really does is really sticks you because it's like we're aware of the truth and we pretend the lies aren't there.
Yep.
And it creates this like spiral of muckiness.
Yeah.
So just like you said, what's true?
And then you wait for
true.
Yeah, and you perceive what's lighter. That's what's true. And what's not true is what's heavier. And like even asking, you know, like what's right about this I'm not getting, even though that doesn't go in totally into like the rightness and wrongness, but it's like in a given situation like this, a lot of times we go into making a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people will go into making themselves wrong about the situation, or they're like looking at everything that could go wrong, that has gone wrong, and that's going to be, you know, forecasted in the future about everything that's wrong versus like, and then when you do that, all you're going to get is what's wrong. That's what's going to keep showing up is everything that's wrong about everything. And you can turn it around and start asking what's right about this I'm not getting, because that opens up a door to greater possibilities. It allows you to see things that maybe you weren't aware of before.
Yeah.
But one of the other things I wanted to say is really, we did the video, or we did the show last week on the earth. And a big part of this is actually looking at what is this? There's so much unconsciousness that we've been living from. And really, they call it a pandemic, or you can call it a catastrophe. And a catastrophe in ancient Greek actually means a turning point. So you could look at it in a different way with a different perspective as this is an actual turning point. And there's so many people, I've heard this over and over again, talking to people about how they actually somewhat have to go inside. Like I'm talking about internally within yourself and start to recognize, hey, what are the things that do make me happy? What are the things that I enjoy doing? What are the things I don't enjoy? What have I been doing that I don't like doing? And a lot of that comes from what you could call like a breakthrough or a breakdown, but it's really being okay kind of with the unknown. It's like having a little bit of gap in that space of like not knowing. A lot of times we do know underneath everything, but what if it's okay to be uncertain at times? And in that uncertainty is that silence that allows us to know more of who we truly are. It goes beyond that mental chatter that we have.
Well, that's good. We have a lot of time, right? We have a lot of time hanging around the house, going out for walks, whatever. Like it's a good time to take that space and to do that sort of like personal check-in.
Yes.
And I think also like we would be also on a bigger scale. I mean, that's a part of it. And also it's a turning point in the world and in the kind of life that we want to have as a society moving forward. Right.
Yes.
And so asking questions and being aware of what's true and what's a lie, and looking at all the systems that have been in place and asking questions about those contribute to and create this reality. And when we're not conscious with them, meaning, oh, that stuff just happens over there and that's how it is or whatever, that does create something. And so we are at a turning point.
Yeah.
You know, it is time to get more present, be more conscious with everything, not just with yourself. And I say that because I feel like, and I've had a lot of conversations with people lately, it's like being conscious is this like esoteric personal growth thing. You know what I mean? And it's also more than that too.
Yeah.
So I just think that that's not, I haven't heard very many people having that part of the conversation. And that's really conversation that I'd like people to start having as a result of all of this.
Well, the part of that you're talking about that I see too, that you could call conscious or whatever, but is looking at, instead of like fighting each other or being in a constant battle, it's recognizing that indisputable truth that we actually are not separate. I mean, look how much like one thing created a shutdown with so many things, and how much really, if we're willing to be it, we are a collective as a humanity. And when something like this comes up, we can actually allow a lot of things to shift. It can allow a lot of things to shift and change. And it's kind of releasing that veil of illusion of separation. That's one of the things that I've noticed.
Right. But I think that that's something we have to actively choose, because
yes.
I do think, because there are a lot of people that surprise me, actually, that I'm surprised by the level of fear response and their willingness to just like, I don't even have the word for it, go after people, like increase this instead of this.
Well,
right?
that's one of the huge symptoms I see of this whole thing, of this coronavirus, this pandemic, this whatever you want to call it, this catastrophe turning point, is the fear. Because when that takes over the mass, fear creates more pandemonium, versus actually if you go beyond that illusion of fear. And fear to me is like where we do go into that separation, what Ken was just saying, and then people want to fight, versus, and that's a reaction again, versus actually taking an action to change what you would really like to have for your future, what you would like to really be, and like what we would like to have with the earth, you know. And everybody's going to be different with what they desire and with what they want. And that's where the whole thing of, which we can talk a little bit about, is where interesting point of view comes up. But you were going to say something?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, and I don't, in terms of like what you want and what you'd like to have, we don't really mean like a new house or a car or a certain kind of job or whatever. I think that this is a time when, I guess, to use myself as an example, I am really asking questions and looking at, in a way that I never have, what I want my life to be like in the next 3 to 5 years, and where I would like to be and what I would like to be doing. I think before I always did it with a lot of sort of like pre-concluded things because of how like the world is or life is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I'm taking this time now to actually, I don't know if that makes sense. It's just different.
No, I would say yes. It's more like, I myself too, I've seen it where we push or we do it through force, versus actually being in the allowance. I mean, you still have to take action, but being in the allowance of what it is that we'd really like to have show up.
Yeah, and I guess I'm thinking more about like what it would feel like and what it would, some of the more, you know, I'm not, it's less like goal target oriented specific things and a lot more sort of like, how would I like to feel? How would I like my body to feel? You know, how would I like my animals to feel? Just there's, you know, so there's, I guess
It's
there's
more
just,
like what we would say is like talking about the energy of it is like, do you like the joy? Like, what does it, like somebody as an example says they want a really fast car, like with the top down, the convertible. But why do you want that? Like, what is that? Is it because you love feeling the wind blowing on your face when you're driving? Does it create a joy in your life? Does it give you this exhilaration, like feeling alive? Those are like, that's kind of what Kim is talking about. It's more of like getting in tune with like the energy of what you would like to have in your life and how it feels, versus an actual target or a goal or a physicality of something.
yeah. And I think also too, I think there are things that I have always desired that I just didn't think were possible, that somehow as a result of all of this, I'm a bit more like, well, why not? Like everything is changing. So, you know, like, oh, that maybe that is possible, you know? So I say that just so when we talk about that, it's, you know, not like this goal target oriented thing, but really like, look at the energies that you want your life to be. What kind of, the energy of the neighborhood that you want to live in, the energy of the people who are like the leaders of the community, all of that sort of stuff. You know, those are actually things that we have control, we can contribute to, control, or change,
Yeah.
you know? And I think now is really the time to get more clear about that stuff.
Yeah.
And just the action of having that mental conversation with yourself helps contribute to change. And for me, has created peace in the crazy.
Exactly. It does. It does. Yeah. So one of the tools that I was talking about, and kind of like with all of this, is really looking at everything can and be just an interesting point of view, which isn't something that we're taught, and it's not something most of us believe, you know, because we talked about earlier in the reaction, you either align and agree or resist and react. But what if everything could be interesting? So when those things come up like that because believe me, I've been poked through this whole thing. There's been a lot of stuff. I'm like, okay, interesting point of view that I have that point of view. And then interesting point of view, like I'm trying to think of something. What's a good example?
I don't know, but interesting point of view that they have that point of view.
Yeah.
I mean, that just in that same post where people were like, well, don't you believe blah, 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 blah. What do you suggest? Blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, I think everything's just an interesting point of view. You're entitled to your point of view. I'm entitled to my point of view, and we're entitled to share it and discuss it. And I hope that in sharing things, it will get someone to ask a different question.
Yeah, because it's not about, that's the whole thing about interesting point of view. It's not about making somebody right and the other person wrong, or vice versa. It's allowing you to have this interesting point of view. And if that person has a different point of view, interesting. They have a different point of view. That doesn't make them right. It doesn't make them wrong. It's just a different point of view.
I don't know where and who decided in humanity that when someone has a different point of view, that like it's our life's mission in the moment, that like we must change their point of view to match our point of view. It's insanity. Who cares?
That is insanity.
And I muted that. Oh, now I missed it. Crap. So to be clear, I live on a train line, and the train agrees.
The train does agree.
Actually, That's a funny inside joke with Trina and I, because we'll be having all these deep and meaningful conversations as we plan things and blah, blah, blah. And inevitably, some sort of big breakthrough-y sort of thing comes out of our mouths, and the train is like, honk, honk.
At the most random times.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
There you go.
All right. So, interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Interesting point of view. They have this point of view. Interesting point of view that I have the point of view that they have this point of view. It's just all interesting.
I mean, and to be honest, there are some days where I just walk around and in my head, I'm like, well, that's an interesting point of view, interesting point of view, interesting point of view, interesting point of view. And when that doesn't work for me, I just turn around and walk away.
Or like now when you go to the grocery store and it's like one way down an aisle, I'm like, wow, well, that's interesting. I'm like, can I be the rebel here and go the opposite way? Oh, so hopefully you guys got something out of this. But really, it's take this moment in time to get more clear on what is it that you know, and what is it that you would like to actually have and create and generate in your life.
Yes. And this is a good time to remind everybody, although I think it's in like the show exit, but go to energeticsignatureformula.com. That's energeticsignatureformula.com. And you can get our guide, How to Beat Overwhelm Anxiety, 6 tips to being with energy. And those tips really will help in the crazy that is currently consuming the world. So it's free. You just have to pop in your email and then it'll send you a link to download. So
yeah, so check it out.
Yeah, if you haven't gotten that, check it out.
All right, guys. Oh, and before we head off, like next week, which you'll get it, but we're going to have Jack is going to be on for his second episode, and he's got something amazing to say about the earth, and it's very fitting for this time. So be sure to check it out.
Yep. All right, everyone. See you next week.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the show.
Our target is to make your awareness easy to use and to acknowledge the power of not fitting in.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube and share it with someone you know.
Why fit in when you were born to stand out?
Embrace your difference. Join the Misfit Squad.